Well, after that utterly, entirely train wreck of a day on day 6 at the Paris Olympics, we had a bright, sunshiny day, which was day 7 at Paris Olympics for the Indian contingent. There have been no medals. We've come close to a medal, but lots and lots of things to cheer about. History was spotted in the rearview mirror and then never overtook us. All sorts of things happen. So, to recap, one of the best days that India has had at the Paris Olympics. We have with us Mihir Vasavda joining us from Paris. As if you've heard our Pod of the Rings episodes before, you will know that Mihir always gets to go first because like हम अतिथि देवो भव में मानते हैं तो मिहिर को हमेशा usually preference देते हैं. But after that, we'll come to our third co-host, Vinayak Mohanarangan, who usually waits his turn and then gives us all sorts of insights about every sport because he kind of tracks pretty much everything. This is me, Amit Kamath, and this is, I believe, our seventh consecutive episode of the Pod of the Rings podcast. Mihir, welcome. Like, I know you have very, very limited time, so I want to get right into it. Today, we've seen, Manu Bhaker making it to the 25-meter final. Ordinarily, at any other Olympics, we would have said that, एक medal उसने जीत लिया है, second medal थोड़ा difficult है. But since she's already gone past a second medal, are we looking at a three-peat? Are we looking at a third medal from her?
I mean, imagine just us even saying that. An Indian athlete winning three medals at one Olympics, an Indian athlete winning three medals in a career is something that we've not seen ever. And in a span of 1 week, last Saturday was when Manu Bhaker began her Paris Olympics campaign. And थोड़ा context, I think, बहुत important है इसमें because back then, 1 week ago, she was a shooter who had completely bombed in her maiden Olympics, the last one in Tokyo. She had been, in a way, mocked for constantly choking in the finals. And now, in 1 week, like it's totally changed, and she is within touching distance of winning three medals at an Olympics. I mean, if she does that, I don't know what you guys feel, but certainly in my book, she'll be, I mean, depending on the color of the medal, it will go as if she'll be one of the greatest Indian Olympians or the greatest Olympians. And trust me, 25 meters is something that she considers to be her pet event. Many who have seen her kind of grow as a shooter still believe that it's a 10-meter air pistol, but regardless the kind of form she is in, I wouldn't rule out another medal for her, especially the way she shot in the qualifying round today. I mean, it wasn't really as high scoring as many other qualifiers we've seen, but Manu was in a zone that is just one of those things. जब भी आपका सब कुछ सही चल रहा है तो nothing can stop you. And I think Manu is going through one of those phases in her life that if she had to compete every day, she would still finish among medals. You ask me, can she win a third medal? I say certainly she can.
Yeah, and Mir, there's so much I want to talk to you about, especially that story that you did about the two boxers who are in the middle of a gender row and they're being mercilessly booed in the venues, they are being mercilessly trolled on social media. But we only get to ask you one question, which is why I'm going to make it about something that is very dear to your heart. The Indian men's hockey team has defeated Australia 3-2 in a pool stage match, and this is the first time that the men's team has defeated Australia at the Olympics since 1972. So at least we weren't around when India had last defeated Australia, but now we don't need to look that long back into history. Mihir, can you talk about the significance of this win, what this win means for the Indian hockey team?
This is, in a nutshell, could be the transformative moment in Indian hockey. And I'm not kind of overstating here for the simple reason that there has always been this big mental block with India playing Australia in any tournament. We have spoken to, so many coaches, so many players, and they've always said the only thing that stopped India from playing well against Australia, forget wins, we are not talking about a win, but even reducing the margin of the defeats. It's always been 5-0, 7-0, those kind of hammerings, and it was always in the mind. So for India to now play against Australia in a way they did on Friday, it could be one of the most defining matches of these Olympics, regardless of what happens in the quarterfinals. Abhi thoda sa incidental ho jata hai, if you're looking at the bigger picture, quarterfinals, India might go on and lose, India might go on and win. You don't know what happens on Sunday. But when you kind of zoom out a little bit and see the impact this result could have, it's massive because I'll list out two or three things that makes me believe that. A, just the way India started. I have not seen India dominate so consistently against Australia, play at the same intensity all through 60 minutes. India scored goals and they kind of, followed one goal with another immediately in the next minute. That's something that India don't do against Australia. That's something that Australia do to India. The second thing, after scoring two goals, they didn't go back and defend all the time. They were still looking for a third and they got the third. Even if Australia pulled one back, India did not defend and protect that 2-1 goal lead, but they went out and searched for the third goal. So that mindset, I think, was important. The way they played. When we talk about all the mistakes that India keep making and how those mistakes lead to defeats, even though the team is playing well. Today, there were no such mistakes. And whenever someone made a mistake, there was a teammate to back it up. I thought that kind of play was remarkable. And to sum it up, I think Fulton's revealing his cards very slowly, one by one, which is fascinating because until now we hadn't seen a Craig Fulton coached Indian team play at such speed. They were always very, very slow and calm in the build-up, passing around and looking for gaps. This time it was Indian hockey with that old counter-attacking speed mixed with the control that Craig Fulton wants. And that was very refreshing to watch. So, regardless of what happens in Sunday's quarterfinal, this is a big result in the overall context of Indian hockey.
Okay, Mihir, I know you have very, very limited time with us and you really got to get going. We'll catch you tomorrow again, hopefully. We've had a great streak so far. We've managed to catch you on 7 straight days. So well done to us, I guess. But let's talk about somebody who's been working for 8 straight days in a row now. And basically, you will find him on the blog pretty much every minute that the Olympics has been going on, in a sense. Vinayak, welcome to Pod of the Rings. Apna hi ghar samjho isko. Vinayak, I wanted to ask you, I know Mihir has already touched upon Manu. Mihir has already touched upon India's victory over Australia. So basically आके मतलब वो सारे टॉप टॉपिक्स लेके चला जाता है रेस्ट ऑफ द टॉपिक्स हमको छोड़ के चला जाता है.
Yeah, I mean there should be some benefits of him being in Paris, no? He's a headliner.
I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah. But to be fair, today was one of those days, yeah, matlab, it's not as if other stories were slim pickings. There was plenty happening. Do you want to talk about badminton, archery? Take your pick. I mean, plenty to talk about.
Yeah. But I mean, like, thanks for that slight intro. But I'm pretty sure that you are also on the blog pretty much same amount of time, or it's like, yeah, we're all doing what we can to bring the stuff out to the front. Badminton, yeah. Lakshya, first male shuttler from India to reach semi-final at the Olympic Games, joins the club of two before him in Sindhu and Saina. Lovely achievement for him. And we were discussing this in the morning today on what kind of game would we see. I think we mentioned this in last night's podcast also. I don't exactly remember, but of how this will be like a proper slugfest. I mean, it's going to go on for 3 games because both men extend rallies as much as they can. Their defensive skills are superb. We saw some crazy retrievals today. I just want to say, what a good match that was, right? I mean, you were also watching it. It's just a very high quality badminton match. I mean, either guy didn't deserve to lose that in the end, right? So just a really, really high quality match. And Lakshya came through pretty impressively in the decider after being put under pressure for the opening game could have gone either way. Both men had their chances. And then second game, Lakshya started fighting back. It was a lovely win. And we have, of course, Shivani's piece on the website that's already been published. Well worth your time to read that on what she thought about the match. Amit, pretty impressive, no?
Yeah, and you know what I found pretty fascinating, that I know everybody talks about, why you should listen to the English commentary, but I usually find myself gravitated towards the Indian commentary only because I want to check out what sort of analysts all our Indian, former Indian athletes who are sporting legends in their own right, what sorts of insights they give, right? I'm very keen to listen to what Aparna Popat or somebody like a Parupalli Kashyap, or today they even had Tejaswin Shankar joining in for his debut. I guess you couldn't have made a debut on a better day. So I'm very keen to listen to them. And what fascinated me was yesterday how Parupalli Kashyap was talking about, when he was playing at the Olympics, he found himself, I think he was playing either Lindan or Lee Chongwei, I can't remember whom, at one of the Olympics, and he found himself ahead at some point. And at that point, the imposter syndrome kind of took very strong root. And he was like, am I supposed to be ahead at this point? And he was like, so I'm ahead. But so rather than playing like, I'm dominating him, I'm leading, I started to get slightly defensive. And next thing I know, I lost the match. That could easily have been the case with Lakshya. I know Lakshya's was a slightly different case because Lakshya had lost the first game and then had to mount a comeback. But then it would have been so easy for him to be at his first Olympics and think that, okay, this is not happening. It was a very close first game as well. It could have very easily, that thought could have very easily sunk into his mind that, okay, fine, matlab, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe 4 saal ke baad I'll try again. Because we heard Sindhu talk about it yesterday that, like, she said that she wasn't thinking so far in the future. But for Lakshya, at least, I'm pretty sure he has plans to stick around for a couple of Olympics at least. So for him, it would have been very easy to think, नहीं ठीक है यार मतलब okay, maybe it's not working out. ठीक है एक game देखते हैं बाद में reaching the quarterfinals is commendable at least. So that was something that I found like very 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 commendable. But yeah, talking about commendable, I think. Tomorrow, a lot of headlines are going to be about how the Indian archers, they were within touching distance of history. They did create history, but then, I mean, like fourth place से हमारा हिंदुस्तान का नाता थोड़ा ज्यादा ही स्ट्रांग होते जा रहा है. विनायक, आई एम प्रीटी श्योर यू वॉच द मैच, सो व्हाट डिड यू थिंक अबाउट द आर्चर्स?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So yeah, they started quite well in the afternoon in the round of 16. So what Dheeraj had done in the men's individual event, you and I both saw that crazy match where he lost by the smallest of margins, 2.4 centimeter. We've spoken about that quite a bit on the podcast as well. That day he was shooting so well, ended up losing early, and today he again was shooting quite well. I was more concerned about his partner even before the event started. I've been trying to find out whether India were actually trying to replace Ankita Bhakat with Bhajan Kaur. Ankita Bhakat basically was the top seeded Indian archer in the ranking round, but then in the women's team event round that followed, she struggled, right? She was shooting 6 and there was a 4 as well in the event. This is no fault of hers that, mistakes happen in archery. We saw 0 as well during one of these events, right? So those things happen, but I felt Bhajan was in a much better shooting rhythm. So even if she didn't be the top seed, the NOCs do have the option of naming another archer from the contingent, like from the 3 archers. It doesn't have to be the top seeded archer. The country has the option of replacing them with someone else. So I was wondering whether they would do that, but Ankita actually started well, to her credit. She shot very, really well for 2 matches. And then, in the end, I think the Korea match, I think Dheeraj did just one mistake the entire day. In the 4 matches he shot, I put out a list of arrows that he shot. I think he shot 1-8, which was a very crucial 8, because if it was a 10, India would have won the test set in the Korea semi-final. Korea might have still gone on to win, but it was a crucial mistake. But otherwise, he shot 10s and 9s throughout the day. And it is kind of sad for him that, after shooting so well in 2 of his 3 events, that he's going to go back without a medal. I hope Ankita can recover from this. It wasn't easy for her today. She made the mistakes in the final that cost us the medal. That I wouldn't deny that. But she's a good archer. She has potential. Of course, she's a World Cup medalist and all that. And I hope she gets the right support going forward. That's kind of more important, because we know when things like this happen, how the reactions can be. She's bound to see some of that on social media or wherever she goes. It's going to follow her. I really hope that she gets the right support and, she can bounce back from this, because it was tough for her this week. And we came incredibly close to a medal, first ever archery medal, which didn't happen. And I doubt the women's recurve event, individual event that is left, there is going to be a chance to win the medal, because, of course, there are 3 Koreans left. So, yeah.
But I think what also stood out for me was that Ankita started in the bronze medal match. I think in the first 2 sets, she started with a 7 in both of them. And
Right.
I mean, after that, she kind of recovered in both sets
Right.
with a second arrow. So, I mean, okay. But then what also kind of stood out, I don't know if you heard her interview later with the broadcaster, where she was talking about, how when they train, usually they train in quiet stadiums. Even when they compete in like World Cups, archery World Cups, the venues are usually like the crowds are really very, very low. So for them to have like a whole full crowd was kind of unnerving. And when she said all of that, it kind of felt like a bit of a throwback to, I don't know, London 2012, I guess, because I wouldn't blame the archers themselves, because, I mean, if they are not prepared. Maybe they are not prepared like this. I wouldn't know. But I think that if the federation could maybe try and simulate the conditions, we know that the Koreans keep trying to do all of these things, but maybe if they were trained like that, because I remember talking to Tarundeep once way back. This was, I think, during the Tokyo Olympics when he was telling me that they try and do weather simulations, like they try and shoot in rain, they try and shoot in other things. But maybe they can also try and do, like, get university students at the ASI Pune campus and get them to make a lot of noise while they're shooting ahead of big competitions. Because, I mean, when she said it, it felt that, I know a lot of people might say that she's giving an excuse, but maybe she's just saying what's actually affected her.
Yeah. I actually couldn't see the interview. That's interesting. I wanted to watch it. I heard quite a few people say that was interesting. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I mean, there is changes needed in archery for sure. Let's see what they're going to do. I mean, I'm not ruling out, obviously, anything can happen in sport. There is still Deepika and Bhajan left tomorrow to shoot. So let's see how it goes. But I'd be really surprised if either of them do end up on the podium.
Right. Okay. Moving on from that, Vinayak, anything else that particularly stood out today? I think we've touched all the highlight points, but was there
Yeah.
anything else that kind of maybe stood out?
Looking ahead, yeah, so we now know Lakshaya's next opponent. We now know Indian hockey team's next opponent as well in the quarterfinal stages, now that all the group matches are done. You might remember this, Amit, you were there. India versus Great Britain in Tokyo. It's the repeat of the Tokyo quarterfinal again, India versus Great Britain. So that's interesting, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And आज जो मैंने हॉकी में देखा, I know Mihir has spoken about this in the podcast about how India kind of scored 2 goals in the first quarter and they were kind of relentless. But Vinayak, I know, मतलब we've heard Mihir speak about it, but from your perspective, थोड़ा सा मतलब did it feel like a different India in a sense to you personally?
That I'm not sure about. It definitely felt like a different India-Australia match. That I'd say. I can't recall. I mean, my history with hockey is not as much as, some of the decades-long hockey fans that we know that exist in this country. From my time of watching the Indian men's hockey team, I don't remember, especially a first quarter where we were the better side among the two. Australia had their chances, but India started so well. And also, Srijesh, the way that he kept India on the side, every time there was a chance, he was there. I mean, it's a big call to make when, someone like Srijesh had the career that he's had, but this should definitely rank among his top 5 performances of all time, if not, even higher. And yeah, looking forward from here, I think it kind of gives a good platform. I think it is also important to keep their feet on the ground. Fulton was speaking to JioCinema after the match, and he seemed like the interviewer was trying to kind of get some emotion from him in terms of how historic this win was, but he didn't give anything. Maybe I think he smiled for like literally 2 seconds of that 2-minute interview. That's all he gave. His feet are on the ground, and I hope that transfers to the team because all said and done, this is one win in the group stage when both teams are qualified for the quarterfinal. What it does though is it helps India finish second in the group, and that's why we are facing Great Britain in the quarterfinals instead of, Netherlands. India had finished third today. Netherlands had finished second in the other group. So it would have been India versus Netherlands, which, it's much tougher than India versus Great Britain. No disrespect to Great Britain. It's also going to be a tricky tie because we struggled against them in the Pro League very recently. Last month in London, both matches were a big struggle against Great Britain. So it's not going to be easy, but yeah, they have good memories to bank on from Tokyo to look forward to. And yeah, and Lakshaya's next match is Victor Axelsen. That's not tomorrow, that's Sunday, but that's going to be a big test, Amit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very fascinating that like Victor Axelsen that we knew over the last few years, has he not been his usual self over the last 1 year? Because we don't hear about him being as, whenever I've heard analysts talk about him, like I've never heard of them talking about him as the same formidable force that he used to be. Like, every time Victor Axelsen would be in the field, you would be like, okay, he's, मतलब वो लिंडा ली चोंगवे वाला I think वो aura अभी शायद नहीं है. I could be wrong, Vinayak.
So, no, you're not entirely wrong. His 2024 hasn't been great. He actually won his first title in May or April, which is very weird for a person like Victor Axelsen who's been steamrolling all these BWF World Tour tournaments in the last 2 years to 3 years from Tokyo. He has been near unbeatable. So, yeah, the start hasn't been great and he missed a couple of tournaments. He hasn't been like he pulled out of one tournament because of an injury, I remember. So, yeah, I mean, I also think he was probably peaking for the Olympics for the right time, because this year the only event that matters for him is Olympics, right? Nothing else matters for him, and he knows how to prepare for these big events, and he has nothing much else to prove on the tour. He's won basically everything there is to be won, but if he can be a two-time Olympic champion, he very much is in the discussion for all-time great men's singles shuttler. So that is what Lakshya is going to be up against. A guy who today in the low can you match that we just saw in the quarterfinal, he looked absolutely superb. The first game was 21-9 against low can you. The second game was a little trickier, but he's looking great. I mean, yeah, he's hands down looking like the favorite, especially after the top seed lost, Shi Yuqi. The Chinese other guy, Li Shifeng, has already lost. Antonsen was considered to be a medal favorite. He's lost. So, that's kind of thrown open the men's singles field, except for, Victor being Victor. And unfortunately, that's what Lakshya has to come up against on Sunday.
Yeah, well, on that very promising note, I think we've run out of time, but we'll be back tomorrow with another exciting episode where we talk about everything that's happened under the sun, or we'll try to talk to in our time limit. But yeah, till then, thank you for listening. This is me, Amit Kamath, on behalf of my co-host as well, Vinayakk Mohanarangan from Delhi and Mihir Vasavda from Paris, saying goodbye. Thank you for listening.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.